Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lemonade Stand. I have 3 words for you, Doug and Aiden.
Oh.
And they're going to change the entire reality of our world global economy. Economic D-Day. What does that mean? It's provocative, right?
It gets the people going.
It gets the people going. It's provocative.
It means we're going to show up in boats on the shores of the banks.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in this video, this is this morning, a few hours ago, went out and said he is declaring an economic D-Day is coming for Iran. And I thought that was an interesting phrase because just last week, you did a presentation on how we've basically tried every possible economic sanction for 40 years.
Yes, and in fact, the conclusion of that was, well, if you've been doing this for 47 years, what option is left? And the option is China, basically, because they're the one that is really financially underpinning Iran's ability to do anything right now. So when you talk about economic D-Day, or, you know, other people have been calling it economic 9/11, he said he wants to economically Holocaust them.
He's gone deep.
You have to imagine that what he means by this is dramatic escalation with China.
I have to be so real because of the general news about the administration all the time. Which ones did he actually say?
Just D-Day. Just D-Day. But it is called, there's the new thing that came out today because I did read, Scott Bessent wrote a piece in the FT, I don't know if you can show it, called An Economic D-Day is Coming for Iran. He wrote this last night and he published it in the FT under his own name, basically laying out why they're doing this and what's going on. And then he followed with the speech today. Now the speech today he announced, this is called Operation Economic Outcast. The idea is, similar to what you discussed last week, is they're going to pull every possible lever to make Iran and Tehran an economic outcast from everyone in the world. No one will trade with them. And as you mentioned, if you look at the numbers, 90% of what they trade is going to China. And he doesn't mention China's name in this.
Yes.
And isn't even willing to say their name. And China has said they're not going to stop trading with Iran. So I don't know what exactly this means, but he did. I mean, I wish I had a direct quote from the video, but he's like forcefully saying, we are going to cut you off from the US dollar system if you trade with Iran. And if you're not talking about China, you're talking about basically anyone with that. So I don't know. It's like a big line in the sand to draw today. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, if they're just talking tough.
Wait.
Or are we going to try and...
That's what I don't understand.
You know what I'm saying? It's such an insane...
We've had sanctions forever, and then he made a big deal last week about how there's going to be a big announcement, and then he calls it Economic D-Day, but there's nothing concrete. It's just like, we're going to be doing additional sanctions on everybody if you don't apply. And then a quote from him, we are giving everyone the opportunity to remedy bad behavior. Why would I want to blow up the global financial system? So it's like a threat.
But we're not going to do it.
And he's not saying which countries, and he's not saying the specifics. It's just like, we're really angry.
Yeah.
But that's not D-Day. D-Day actually did stuff.
War. People already know we're angry.
D-Day was not us giving a strongly worded letter to Hitler, okay? It was not. It wasn't us writing in the FT, hey, you better stop it, Hitler. Big things would be coming,
Hitler
probably.
Off the US dollar system. We could have saved some lives on D-Day if we just took him off the dollar system.
Well, let's not undervalue the strength of strongly worded letters. Aren't they already cut off from the U.S. dollar system?
Yes.
What am I misunderstanding?
Their lifeline is Russia and China, and this doesn't even name them directly. I don't know what it means, but it seems like it's a big deal for them. It's an important economic D-Day that they're doing. Those who tether themselves to Iran are foreclosing any path to prosperity, as we said to these other countries. Your confidence will collapse. Any nation that serves as a financial artery of a withering regime should expect to share in its isolation. Now, when you think about that, share in its isolation means they are not isolated. They are together in a trading partnership, which is what Russia and China currently are with Iran. To become a sanctuary for terrorists, to become, in the eyes of the United States, a global pariah. The problem is, I think the problem with all of this stuff that he's been doing lately with the treasury market and with the yen is that just in the eyes of the United States, it's no longer enough. They don't have enough economic clout to force every single person to trade with who they want when they want.
And the main person you need to heal in this scenario, or the main country, is the country with all the economic leverage.
Yeah, Xi Jinping would have to be on board with this. And he didn't mention his name in the speech, so I'm not sure it's a complete alliance. I do say, it was a funny quote I heard from the former U.S. ambassador to Iran who helped negotiate the Obama nuclear deal. He said, when asked about what new sanctions we could really realistically roll out, he's like, so we've tried the low-hanging fruit. We tried the mid-hanging fruit. We tried the high-hanging fruit. We tried the tree. I don't think there's anything left in the tank. So he seems pretty puzzled as to what, outside of like open economic war with China, which by the way, we've kind of already done in the the tariff wars of last year, and they sort of hit their limit and they had the leverage on the rare earth and they cut it off. So again, it's a lot of tough talk, and it is, I guess, a bigger deal than usual, but I can't realize what's going to be different about it. That's
he talked about digital assets, technology, gold, aviation, and shipping.
Yep.
So with China, the key things they buy Iran's oil, which is like their lifeline, right? But they do use like crypto for tons of different things.
Yep.
So trying to basically cut anybody who's doing any sort of organized crypto purchases or trading with Iran. I mean, probably this will put real pressure. There's probably some levers left.
Okay,
there are China, but just not the big one.
Yeah, and so to steel man, I talked to my contact in Iran, and he did mention the rial has hit an unprecedented like 2 million to $1.
Oh my God.
And he's like, at the worst of back when, he's actually fled the country now, but back when he was there, he was like, it was 500,000, which is 1/4 of what it is now. That was the worst of when he was there. It's now 2 million. He said, if basically nobody is using the currency at all, they are all shifting to gold or dollars or crypto or just like holding their assets in anything else, because holding it in rial is like asking to have it devalued to nothing. People that are paid wages in rial are like at, it's like Weimar levels of crisis. It's like the economy of Iran is in a horrible spot. And additionally, do
you have any insight into public life from talking to that person? Like, I understand that they fled, but as wars go on, life goes on in places.
Yeah.
Like in Tehran, you can still go to a restaurant and buy food.
Yeah.
Are you not making that transaction in the local currency
anymore? I think they're
anymore?
using other currencies. That's the impression that I'm getting, is they've found other ways. It could be RMB, it could be dollars, it could be crypto, it could be gold, but they're not like carrying their savings in rial, because that is not a reliable source. That being said, the Iranian president 3 days ago, did say something that signaled a willing, like that there is some effect to this. Because again, also data has come out that oil out of Hormuz from Iran has completely stopped. The blockade is seemingly having an effect. Now, they've already banked a lot of extra money because of all the oil they exported earlier that was at higher prices, but they're not making it now, and that is a problem. Iranian president said it's time to end the war with the U.S. from, quote, a position of strength. But saying that does necessarily indicate that there is a future where you're not in a position of strength. Like, the idea is like, we are in our maximum amount of leverage now. People are beginning to build routes outside of Hormuz. They're building pipelines, and our economy is not like getting better. And so it would be good to negotiate with some, the problem is it's very hard. I think this will be our next story. We're talking about Canada. It's very hard to make a deal with Trump that is reliable. No matter who's got the position of strength or what you agree upon, it's hard to make a deal that he's going to stick to. So maybe we can transition over to that, but there is some idea that it's working. I don't think it's working quick enough for Trump's timeline, which is the midterms and what he wants to do. But it does seem to have some effect on their economy in that they might actually want to negotiate. But I don't know if these additional sanctions are going to add too much to that. And again, the impacts are also being felt in America, which is higher prices for things, fertilizer, gas, etc. So yeah, I don't know. That's.
Why don't we skate on over to just a great
Tariff
situation.
D-Day.
Tariff D-Day with our northern neighbor and my home country.
Yeah, we have a Canadian, an authentic Canadian on the podcast. Never say we're not a diverse podcast.
And now over to our international reporter.
Yeah, the international
Aiden
reporter.
McCabe.
If you want an immigrant's perspective.
Let's get an authentic Canadian perspective from Aiden. What is going on the ground?
So I think you have already talked about this on Big A to an extent. And I watched the press conference where Mark Carney speaks to the Canadian public about what has gone on in trade negotiations with the United States from the Canadian perspective, and basically announces that after heavy negotiation, we have arrived at a point where the U.S. has seemingly forfeited the old terms and the progress that was made, comes in with new terms all of a sudden that Canada is very uncomfortable with. And Carney, instead of trying to continue to the negotiations, pulls Canada's negotiators back and says, we're just matching the tariffs dollar for dollar. We are no longer going through this process anymore. Am I missing anything there?
No. I think the one thing I'd say is, so we're under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, the USMCA or whatever. This was signed in 2020 by a certain president named Donald J. Trump, who said at the time, this is the greatest, fairest deal we've ever signed. And now in 2026, he is saying this deal is bad, unfair, not a good deal, and that Canada is abusing it, and that we need to change the terms of the deal. So they've gone from a 16-year renewal to a yearly renegotiation. And while they were doing this renegotiation, like you said, they tried to add some terms last minute. I think the term that was really a sticking point, I mean, I could steal I didn't do this in my Big A clip, so I want to kind of do it now, is just say, this is what is happening, is that the USMCA is like as close to you can get to a free trade thing between North America, Canada, Mexico. America has a priority, which they are worried that if they are going to put tariffs on Chinese cars or whatever, that Canada could end up being a backdoor for Chinese manufacturing. So if we have a deal with you and then you have a deal with China, China can just use Canada as a way to get into our free trade system that we didn't want them to be in.
And Canada had just negotiated that new deal with China that allows EVs at least in for a set period of time earlier this year in like February.
And Canada is allowed, there's a sovereign nation that can make their own deals. But America was trying to get them to base, they didn't say which country, but the obvious answer is that they are trying to get them to have no deals with China. And that was not part of this negotiation until the last minute. They kind of threw it in. And Carney said, no, you're basically pushing our sovereignty. And so, I would just say that's like the setup. The problem is I actually would love to hear what your family said or what we were talking about in what Canadian perspectives.
Yeah. I think the two, so I have a broad overview. This is before this happened. Keep in mind, this is more like during the negotiation process, but I went to see a bunch of my family recently in British Columbia, and I asked a huge spread of my relatives just what they think about Carney and what is going on right now. And the general sentiment from all of them, even though they do have different political backgrounds and opinions, not all of them even voted for his party.
Sure.
They said they like the way that he's standing up to Trump. And then the worst criticism I heard was he has yet to deliver on a lot of the things he's promising because he just hasn't been in office that long.
Right.
But generally seems to be taking a position of strength for Canada and has a strong economic, intelligent background that they all really like. Keep in mind, this is just my family.
Sure.
So Doug had actually a handful of questions to ask my family members, and I texted it to a few of them.
What were you like as a kid?
Yeah.
Were you always this scrawny?
Yeah.
Did they underfeed you intentionally?
Well, he's like a scarecrow. Why does he feel like he's like a weird, like a
you
like
keep
one
him
of those
outside in the yard?
So I asked them that. I asked them that,
And they all
and then also about the politics
Okay,
stuff.
I got you. All right.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about this. And the two responses I have so far, this is from my grandfather, who's approaching 80 years old, is about to retire soon, and has worked in Canada and the US for quite a long time now. And Doug's questions going into this were, does all of this rhetoric between Canada and the US, these ongoing issues, does it feel more like background noise, or does it feel like something that is having a concrete effect on your life, or something that is really demanding your attention? And the second question was, has this resulted in any tangible change in their behavior, consumption habits, what they're choosing to buy? Right. From my grandfather's perspective, he finds the Trump changing his mind part to be particularly frustrating and chaotic. He said, I think I can survive some of the tariffs myself, but it's the day-to-day uncertainty. It seems Trump changes his mind on a daily basis with very little thought or rationale. I just find that really frustrating. And from him, he says he doesn't buy a lot of things in general. He's a pretty frugal guy, but he's spent his entire life trying to buy Canadian-made goods as best he can. He doesn't feel like he is personally changing his consumption habits very much.
Okay.
He is more sensitive to it now, but is pretty much just doing the same thing he always did.
Okay.
I know from my other grandfather, he is outright boycott, will not visit the U.S. under any circumstances, even to visit like my immediate family that does live in the U.S. Won't buy American products, hates Trump. And he's a conservative guy. He's a Canadian that prior to all of this was going like, I get where Trump's coming from.
No, that's wild.
And,
that is
And then from my aunt, she is an interesting perspective, I think, because she's well-educated. She works in government. She's worked in government for like 30 years, and she's very tapped into Canadian politics because of her work, her news consumption, and she's very tapped into American politics, consumes a ton of American news. And she had a much more lengthy response. And she said in her circles, this is super top of mind in basically every aspect, whether it be in personal consumption or just view of how it impacts things economically. She said these tariffs have like a tangible effect on Canadian jobs, prosperity.
Right.
She sees the way that affects people already. And then for her and her friends, like personal spending habits, they go out of their way to not buy American products. She gave an anecdote about how her and her friend were at the grocery store and they were buying produce and they like tried one of the grapes, I think. And she was like, this is a really, that's what, maybe they were at a farmer's market or something, you know? And she said, I hope these aren't, I guess it wouldn't be a farmer's market if they're buying American grapes.
She's stealing grapes.
They're stealing grapes.
So your aunt is a criminal, and you've admitted on a podcast.
And I feel like tariffs on that type of person is appropriate.
We should double the tariff.
Let me reread the quote. She said, last night I was with my friend Joanna, and we stopped in the grocery store, and she picked up some really, really nice grapes.
Oh, so now Joanna's going to jail.
And then
now you throw Joanna under the bus.
And then asked aloud. And then she asked aloud, "Don't tell me that these are American," and then they were, and she just put them back down.
Oh my God.
And she
also eating them.
And then she also said she recognizes that
economic war. That's what this is. That's a direct quote from Cardi, by the way. This is an economic war. He said. So we're getting
She's
D-Day.
Grilling an American hamburger in the grocery aisle. It's like, this had better not be American.
She said that she even recognizes that the grapes are from California, which from a political stance is, Governor of California is Gavin Newsom. She feels that this is a guy that is standing up to Trump from an American political perspective.
Certainly not up the line.
But she's like, we got to hold the line. And even if and I think there is some recognition from everybody, especially when, you have family members that are American, that this isn't the whole U.S. This isn't about U.S. citizens. It's very focused on frustration with one particular guy who seems to be going back and forth on the decisions he makes all the time.
I kind of have a counter. A couple weeks ago, I think during the Bezor episode, I posited the question, do you feel like America's reputation is permanently ruined?
Yeah.
And there were actually a lot of great responses in the YouTube comments, like really thoughtful responses. And a lot of them from, countries like Canada or Australia or European countries were basically like, maybe it was different in the past, but it's not just what Trump is doing, because I rationally know a ton of Americans hate Trump. It's the fact that half of the country is capable and willing to elect somebody like this.
This is exactly, so my aunt, the direct quote, "We signed a deal many decades ago. We trusted the U.S. and we integrated our trade, ideally to the benefit of both. The fact that this is happening is such a massive betrayal that it has fractured trust with Canadians for, I bet, a generation. Dude, we are so pissed at Trump." And my aunt said, dude. And also so shocked that 50% of the population didn't see through this guy.
Yeah, that's a great point. No, I want to, my thought on it, because I was trying, my clip on it was a little more like, this is fucking terrible, whatever. I was trying to steelman it, and I was thinking, and the problem I keep running into is like, even if, because we've talked on this show about how the economic shock of China's growing manufacturing is causing some problems in a lot of countries because they're just really fucking good at it. And if they continue on this path, everyone is going to be economically dependent on them for manufacturing. It's offshoring everything to them. And there's things you could do. And it's like, if that was a priority, there is a way to give and take with a friendly ally to maybe like, we want this, we have to give something to you. Like, there's a way to make this a win-win on a multi-decade long northern border sharing ally. The fact that he turns every negotiation into a extremely contentious head-to-head bullying match, I think is counterproductive, even if we had insane strength, even if we were fully able to bully Canada, which we don't seem to be able to do. It's like a human thing. Like if you were to do that to somebody in your life, they would resent you very quickly. Like it's just not.
You'd ruin all your friendships.
You would ruin all your friendships so quickly. And it's like, it's insane that we as a country, but especially as a fucking negotiator and a president, are running this strategy down mid over and over until nobody can trust anything you sign, say, shake hands on, agree on, or deal. And I think that's the problem here, because I don't think there's a world where it's impossible that you could even get Canada to agree to change their EV tariffs with China or whatever. But you have to be willing to, you can't just take, demand, threaten, bully. It doesn't work.
He wants to be in a perpetual Mexican standoff. Guns pointed at everybody else, everybody pointing guns at him.
But they're not allowed to have guns. Or they doesn't, like if they use guns back, it's like.
No, if they agreed to stop the stand down, he wants another one. He'll then pull the guns back out. He wants it to be gone.
Once you pull your guns out, he takes out a second gun.
Exactly.
He's like, now I've got you where I want you. It's
I think to actually connect the first two stories here, I think what's really funny is in the Iran scenario, he has this excuse, which I don't think is a good one, given all the context that we've gone through on the show, that the Iran nuclear deal was made by the Obama administration. It was made by another guy, and that deal wasn't effective. Ignore the merits of that argument and just take it at face value.
Yeah.
I'm going to handle this differently. I'm a new guy. Yeah. But with Canada, he made the last deal. It's so no matter what, it doesn't matter if it was the president before, it doesn't matter if it was him when it happened. He's willing to throw everything out at any time.
Yeah, I wish I had. Yeah, okay, I just got the direct quote. I'm sorry. In 2020, USMCA is the largest, most significant, modern, and balanced trade agreement in history, and it's the best agreement the United States has ever made. So to say that and then to undo it, not but 6 years later, 5 years later, really, people can't trust that, of course.
And you just undermine your ability to do it at all going forward. Honestly, even if new administrations come in, I think that's the frustrating part, is the idea that he could the Republican Party could lose the next election. We could have an all Democratic, like Senate, House of Representatives.
No, it could be Mark Carney's clone wins in America and they handshake and they love each other and they kiss.
But it doesn't really matter who's in charge next, because there's this underlying idea of no matter what the result, things can just flip to another insane guy within 4 years.
Yeah.
And that is the memory that will live on for at least a few more terms, I feel like.
Yeah. I think you'd have to build trust is a lot harder to build back than it is to lose. And I think like you just can't make a 20-year deal with America. You'd have to make a 4-year deal max and then like renegotiate. You know, it's just I think that is going to have consequences for a while to come. And it's depressing. I mean, it's like.
Do you ever think about how we've talked about this, the idea of like the benevolent dictator? It's like the benefit of, tons of trade-offs. I hope they're very obvious. But when you have one guy in charge for a really long time, you can make a bunch of progress. I think Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore is like a good example. Yeah. And even in China's case, right? You have for all of their problems that we've discussed at length, you have one consistent figure that's in charge and like pursuing a policy agenda for a long period of time that can result in good things for that place. You could also have an insane guy at the head.
Is this your Putin for America pitch? Is this trying to?
I would classify him an insane guys.
No, I see what you're saying. But it's funny because it still depends on the person, because, if you gave Trump 20 years in power of complete control, he would still change his mind on his own deal. It would still go, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you have to be stable. It's like any human relationship. Whether it's the government, whether it's a person, whether it's an autocrat, whether it's Democrats, they have to commit to things they say they're going to do.
He loves D-Day. He loves D-Day. He just wants D-Day to happen. It's like he just.
If we had unlimited terms of Trump, like say we've had Trump for the last 25 years, we're still flip-flopping trade deals the entire time.
No, I mean, and that's what's happening in Iran too, is that they are finding, even when we get to the negotiation table, things change, or the second the balance of power is in his favor, he's like, well, the old deal. I don't, like that's it's like Darth Vader, dude. It's like that's what I've altered the deal. That's the problem. And so everyone is rationally doing the rational thing, which is find whatever leverage we have and grow that out as much as possible so that I have some counterpunch. Otherwise, you're going to keep bullying me. That is like just what you have to do. And it's I don't know, it's a frustrating experience.
You know what never changes?
What never changes?
Cancer cells.
Don't they famously, isn't that the problem? Is that they're constantly
hold on.
changing?
I'm reading something.
That's like the worst cancer cells.
I'm reading something. Turns out they change all the time. All the time. It's actually part of what makes it really hard to address.
Yeah.
It's
so it's basically been unaddressable until Doug is about to tell us that it's been 100% cured right now.
Until now. That's right. Okay, major cancer breakthrough. Now, probably all of y'all have heard stories where somebody, I've done this on this show, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're like, big scientific breakthrough, seems like this could have huge implications for cancer. And you're like, whoa, that sounds cool. And then 2 years go by and you've never heard about it again. And this happens every 1, 2, 3 years. And eventually, when you're a grizzled old like man in your 50s, you start to be like, okay.
What is he looking at?
I don't know that I necessarily trust the next story I hear about some scientist eliminated tumors in mice or whatever. So Perry, I sent you an article, but you can pull this up anywhere. This is a huge story this past week. Moderna, we love them. They injected us all with microchips. Yep. Okay.
I'm a Moderna taker.
Yep. I can talk to Bill Gates. It's awesome. He gives me advice.
Yeah. Constantly during this show, we communicate to each other the jokes. Yeah. The whole show is written by Atrioc, and then we're fed the lines.
And I'm getting it from Bill Gates. So, that's like
so if you have anything, if you're angry about anything me or Doug have said,
blame
it's actually.
I don't like Atrioc's script for that Doug joke. Okay, but this is not one of those stories. This is an actual, we made a thing that is going to help cancer for real now. So Moderna, a huge announcement last week. Let me just back up and quickly. You remember RNA vaccines, that cool new thing that not invented, but became we invented.
That was a big thing about MLS.
So obviously that really kicked off during COVID era, and that was how we made the COVID vaccines. And this is a really interesting and valuable new way to be able to make vaccines. The general difference is instead of a normal vaccine where you inject a weakened version of a virus, for example, with an RNA, you're sending messengers which will tell the cells to make something. So the idea is we can design in a lab. We want your cells to make a certain type of thing. Inject that, the cells make it, and then your body learns that's a bad thing. I'm going to look out for it. So it's very flexible and fast and has all these advantages over traditional vaccines. So given that, as you pointed out, actually that was wrong. Cancer cells do change a lot.
This is first time hearing.
And that's kind of trust because Aiden has a strong background in medical science.
That's true. Well, in podcasting, which is downstream
which is upstream of all
knowledge. Yes, it's cool. Once you click the first upload button, YouTube has you
like your brain.
glance into the orb of knowledge, and from that point forward, you cannot be wrong.
Yeah.
So as we are creating this new type of vaccine that you can basically design in a lab, what you are going to tell your body to make. It opens up this idea of could you make a personalized cancer vaccine? Part of the challenge with cancers, again, is like they change all the time and it's your own body's cells changing. How are you going to get your body to figure out exactly what the cancer cells look like? And they're changing all the time anyway. So in 2017, Moderna started developing a personalized cancer vaccine for melanoma, which is skin cancer. So here's the process that they came up with. You take a sample of somebody's cancer cells, the actual tumor, you use their program, which will analyze via machine learning, will analyze all the different cells, including healthy cells. And there's like thousands of different ways mutations might show up or different proteins that can show on the surface of a cell. And they design up to hopefully 34 of these basically markers of what a cancer cell looks like in this person's body rather than a healthy cell.
Okay.
So they are analyzing your specific DNA and the way the DNA is showing up and creating cancer.
Okay.
They then in their lab design and manufacture an RNA vaccine that is custom to you. It is specific to your specific cancer cells.
Okay.
And then they create that, they inject it, The immune system says, okay, I'm going to build this thing that you told me how to build. It builds it, or I should say the cells build it. The immune system goes, what are these things? What the fuck's going on here? It identifies them, okay, I know to look out for these in the future. And then it goes onto the rest of the body, realizes it's present in the cancer cells.
The cancer cells
and kills it. So you are creating, you're basically using machine learning to understand some specific traits of tumors from your specific body. You tell the body to make that very specific thing, and now the body is trained against your specific cancer. This is a sort of like conceptual dream that people have had for a long time now. In 2023, they've been working on this since 2017. In 2023, they started phase 3 trials. Phase 3 is basically the final test for medicine. This is the really big one. This one had 1,100 people, different countries, different hospitals, blind studies. It's the extremely thorough. If this passes, this is a legit drug that we can sell to people. And last week on Wednesday, they announced they had passed phase 3 trials.
Oh, shit.
Passed it?
They passed phase 3 trials.
I thought they started it, dude.
No. Wait, that's huge.
Last week, and this is not hypothetical, it's not promising research. Last week, a major pharmaceutical company cleared the trials to prove that they have a cancer vaccine that dramatically reduces the death and recurrence of melanoma.
That's insane. That's fucking
And for
sick.
all of these patients, that's a custom-made RNA for that individual person. Nothing like that has happened before and actually gotten through phase 3 trials. So this is fucking awesome. There's 1.5 million Americans, just in America, living with melanoma. Every year, 110,000 new people are diagnosed. This is from the cancer organizations. I forget the names. 8,500 people die a year in the US from melanoma, about 60,000 globally. And the idea now is like, this is going to help them. In this particular case, it's melanoma post-surgery, but they're looking at approximately a 50% reduction in cancer recurrence or death. So it's not 100% gone, but 50% reduction. Couple asterisks here that I can get to later, but that's basically what we're looking at.
All this stuff about lives saved and people helped. What about Moderna's stock price, Doug?
That's what we're talking about.
That's a question.
Nobody gives a shit except for the stock, dude. Perry, can you pull up the Moderna stock market? So
the graph is actually insane.
It's insane. So last Wednesday, Moderna announced this, and this had been kind of cooking for a while, but again, phase 3 passing is a big deal. And they announced this, and the stock went from $62 and closed to the day at 170% increase.
Wait, it doubled?
It over doubled.
Wait, in a day. That's crazy.
At its peak, it had over tripled. This is an S&P 500 company.
That's a crazy swing for a company
that went up
size.
over 2.5x in a single day. So, I mean, you guys can guess why.
Well, but what that says, though, is that company's entire value of all their drugs is to the market worth less than this drug passing stage 3 trials, or the potential of what this can mean.
There you go.
It's the potential. Investors are reading that this company could be at the forefront of developing a treatment for all cancers.
Yes.
Wow.
So, quote from Barclays analyst said they expect that this particular therapy that just got passed could generate annual sales of about $3 billion for melanoma by 2035. That's good. But that's not like earth-shattering numbers right there. But again, the real signal here is this is the first time a custom RNA cancer vaccine has succeeded a phase 3 trial, right? And in phase 3 trials, like it's like 66% fail in phase 3 at least. So the underlying concept of we as humanity can design customized cures for people is now proven. So that's what this really represents. The next day, the stock plunges 25%. I mean, still from a high. And so I was curious why. Well, Moderna is actually like not doing well other than this. Moderna, this last quarter, posted a net loss of $782 million on revenues of $145 million. They have not had a hit since the COVID vaccine. They kind of like, just
COVID.
Yeah,
that was a hit though. That one hit crazy.
So they're kind of a one-hit wonder. They released this awesome EP right in 2020.
That summer, their music just fucking took me places.
Oh, it was amazing. I listened to all 3 albums.
I actually just did one of the albums. You did all 3 different albums? Pfizer
album,
Moderna album, J&J album?
I got the deluxe. I meant I got 3 shots of Moderna.
No, that's listening to the same album 3 times.
My bad.
So what's next? The FDA still needs to approve this, but again, should all go well, and phase 3 trials is at a level of let's say scrutiny where it should go through. So people should be able to get this as a treatment in a year or two. Moderna is obviously going to try this for other cancers. Melanoma is, so here's some of the disclaimers. This isn't, cancer is cured. Yep. Melanoma is one of the easier ones for this to work on. It's why they started with this one. And the idea is it mutates a lot. So it's easier for, their algorithm to analyze it because you have a lot of different potential targets because it's such a high mutating one. So they're basically going to start going for cancers that also are high mutation and slowly work towards the harder ones. But Moderna is already trying this. They have mid-stage trials for bladder, kidney, pancreatic, stomach cancers. There's large trials ongoing right now for certain lung cancers. And then there's Sam Burrell, the CEO of the medical research charity LifeArc, said, this study will help build confidence that more tailored approaches to treatments for rare conditions that are driven by unique genetic mutations, meaning it's not even just cancer. It's anything that's genetically related. This is proving holy shit, there's some real potential here. And there's a lot of other companies that are trying this. For example, BioNTech is working on colon and pancreatic cancer custom vaccines. So a lot of people are doing this. There's trials underway. And this is this giant signal to everybody of holy shit, this can work. This is awesome.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
This is a fucking cool story.
It's going to be so sick because when the AI powered drones that are getting discovered in Ukraine right now come for us, we'll all be cancer free.
It is one of those things.
They run us down like dogs in the street.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be running.
I will not
tip top shape. Nothing will slow me down. I won't have a cough.
I'm gonna be on the nth version of GLP-1s. My body's gonna be in peak physical condition for the drone
Immaculate
war.
As the
AI
world
drone
has
war.
burnt to a crisp around you. We are gonna be so old and so unhappy. This week's episode is sponsored by Shopify. Hey guys, what are the worst things you can imagine might happen when you're starting a business? I got one. Let's say we're starting to talk about merch, which I actually got a pitch from a merch company last week to do merch for this show.
Okay.
And I couldn't pitch it to anybody because one of my coworkers was playing video games for 100 straight hours. That's one of the worst things I can imagine.
Hold on.
But at least they got a lot of elo in that time, right? At least after 100 straight hours, they ended up at a much higher rank than they started.
I do not see how the fact that we only gained 2 elo over that time period has to do with Shopify and its many features that would allow you to run a store and sell products through it.
I think what's so great is technically I didn't need your involvement because using Shopify, it would have made it so easy to get this store set up, even though one of our 3 co-hosts is playing video games all day long like a child.
And making no progress.
Making no progress,
so it is useless on that front. Thank you for Shopify for doing that. With Shopify, nothing stands between your idea and a real business. So go nothing. Even Aiden's horrendous habits. So go make it one.
Cha-ching. Start your free trial at shopify.com/lemonade. Start your free trial at shopify.com/lemonade.
2 elo.
Okay, speaking of robot drones and cancer research, I want to know what's at the forefront of robotics in China because I've been seeing clips.
Yeah. So I'll pull up some clips. We had Fummy, our researcher, bring some clips of, you've probably seen some of these. The World Humanoid Robot Games has kicked off in Beijing. You've probably seen some of these clips of them running Usain Bolt style. They beat Usain Bolt's record in the sprint. The thing that's different this year is that all of the robots are required to have no remote operation. You can't plug them in. It has to all run autonomously on its own when you tell it what to do. And so there's 2 conferences here. There's the Robot Games, which is basically an Olympics where they do high jump and running and everything else. And there's a conference, which is a slightly different name. It's the World Robot Conference. And it's happening the same time in Beijing. And that is more of almost a business to business, people showing off real industrial capacity of the robots, what things they can do. It's less public. This is sort of China's show off to the world, see the capabilities. Sports are a great way to see year-to-year progress. Happening. And what they're noticing this year is that there's been a pretty big leap. They're breaking a lot of records they couldn't break before. They're going autonomous longer than they could before. They're doing physical actions. I mean, I don't know if I have the clip here.
What the hell?
Yeah, that's the actual conference.
Okay, if you audio listeners, we're looking at a robot cowboy riding a robot horse.
Yeah.
And now a robot playing ping pong pretty well.
That's the perfect one. So same thing if you switch over to here. This is a 135 shot robot rally in tennis, humans hitting the robots. So it's like unpredictable. And again, it's moving around on its own. It's adapting to what it sees. It's all autonomous, no remote. And so its ability to do mechanical tasks that were previously, it would break down a lot quicker, has dramatically increased. Now they're still not there. This isn't, people at the conference were saying there isn't yet what they would call the chat GPT moment for robots, as in a perfectly economic use case that makes sense and it crushes that. But everyone is noticing that it's just a lot closer. Like it can do a lot more things, like all these robots. Again, there's many companies competing that are all going to do it independently. And from the Chinese side, now we've seen this economically from what they did in EVs. And what people are saying at this conference is they have adopted a very similar playbook, which is there's state subsidies overall. Like if you hit this goal, you can make a lot of money, but there are lots of competing companies. A lot of people are in a full industrial race to make the best robot. And so many of them are trying to out-innovate each other in certain tasks. There's a really frenzied competition between these companies, all of which are starting to go IPO at the same time. So I don't know if I mentioned on this show, but in general, the Chinese stock market has been flat for like 30 years. Like they just don't, despite the economy growing, their stock market has been a bad place to put money. This summer, they've had the biggest IPOs, basically ever in China, or at least
in their market's history.
In their market's history. And a lot of them are robotics. Unitree launched and did like a 600% pop day one, bigger than SpaceX. Not a bigger company, but a bigger pop. And so it's like a lot of interest and passion into this as a new growing industry in China. And it is, you can see the advancements in this field at the same time as the advances in AI. They haven't yet truly merged, but when they merge, it's a spooky thing and possibly it just changes the world in a dramatic way. If used in a good way, it could mean like a massive increase in, the ability to output things from factories or whatever. But it's like, it just changes what is possible. And none of this is like right around the corner. It's not 1 year away, according to all the interviews from the thing. But people are just noticing that the advances are starting to compound. Like this guy's figuring this out, this guy's figuring this out. They're adding it together. This guy's doing this thing. And it's becoming a really dense evolution.
Wait, am I correct in looking at this? Shanghai Composite Index has increased like 80% in the last year and a half, something like that?
3 years?
Oh, 3 years. Even still,
No, it's been a huge surge. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So can I
Yeah.
Can I be a hater for a second?
Yeah.
You can steel man it, eh?
Hey.
One thing I find funny about this, and especially after going to Applied Intuition, I'm a simple man.
Yeah.
I see a video of a robot playing tennis and moving around. I still think that's cool. Part of me still thinks that's cool. But I remember a point of discussion we had at Applied Intuition, which is they had this back area that we weren't allowed to see that had robots that they were working on, different form factors of robots. And one of the ones is in the background of the interview we do in that episode, and it is a human form factor robot. And I think because we're human beings and because of media, there is this strong desired form factor of, can we make a robot humanoid that does things like we do? But looking at that running competition is kind of funny because you can make a faster I think they have already made faster robots than that by just not doing a human form factor.
You could put it on a wheel and it would,
the idea that we need to chase this like perfected human form factor robot, maybe it's because people think that will be easier to accept or integrate from like a commercial perspective. Maybe that's the argument.
Yeah.
But to me, I've always thought it's a little dumb. It's like in a world of like biological evolution of all these different like plants and animals that do all these insane things, the idea that this is the form factor you should be chasing for your perfect robot that does a bunch of stuff, or even having like the robot humanoid games, you could be making and chasing other things. And I'm sure, and I've been to a company where they're working on other stuff like that. I'm sure it's happening in the background already. It already happens with drones. It already happens. But I think the obsession with the human form factor robot always feels a little silly to me.
Well, let me make a straw robot man.
Okay.
Straw robot man. Okay.
Straw robot man.
The value of a humanoid robot is not inherently in the shape of humans being better than the shape of like Ultron or whatever, but it's that we as humanity have built our society around the human shape.
Sure.
So if you want a robot to help with people around the house or whatever, human houses are meant for humans. So most of the tasks are optimized for that rather than a big death machine that can move really fast. That's the argument.
In my head, it's like,
will say, does it need to run faster than Usain Bolt? No. But if you want, like, if you wanted to do laundry and use the laundry machine and get under the sink to pick up things and put things up in shelves, like, it's all built for humans right now.
Yeah, but imagine, like, even dream with me for a second.
I'm dreaming with you.
It's a robot that does all your chores at home.
Okay.
It's commercially affordable.
Okay.
It has 4 arms instead of 2. Surely that one's a little better at the job.
I think part of that is it's off-putting. I think what you said about it being like a form factor that we can anthropomorphize. People call ChatGPT, like, they say nice things to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's part of it.
I think that might be it too. But in my head, I'm like, I think maybe I want a little spider robot at home that does the chores.
4 arms, though.
Yeah,
you don't need 4 arms if your arms move as fast as Usain Bolt. Okay, if it's really fast, Aiden.
Actually, this is a silly.
Just take a look.
That's all he can dream.
This is perfect. You don't need to upgrade this.
So people made fun of me for teasing the fact that I didn't love Project Hail Mary, but I thought something cool about that movie is so many times in media the presentation of aliens is like so humanoid, and because it's natural to express things in that way, right? But in that movie, they take this life form in a far off galaxy that we like meet up with. It has no reason to be similar to us in really any way.
But it still thinks and talks like a Redditor.
Yeah.
That's universal.
You're being humanoidist. I don't like this.
And would I want a little robot? If the robot spider does the dishes really fast, I think I prefer it.
Oh, I don't know. I think it'd still be creepier. If it's like my friend, robot human, and he's like, hey, and then a robot spider's like, it would be weird.
You're the marketing guy. This makes sense.
I think this is marketing, but I'll just say that the reason this is all humanoid in this Olympics thing is entirely marketing. This is like a show to the world of how good China has gotten at robotics. And I think the one big question about this that I want to pose to you guys is like, if you pull this chart up, so the issue is that all of the parts that are going into these advanced robotics are almost entirely made in East Asia and mostly in China, especially the magnets, precision bearing, the power electronics, the encoder. All this stuff is majority made in China, or if you include South Korea and Japan. We almost have none of it in America. Tesla, I've maligned them plenty, but there are only like robotics company even close to the scale and size needed at the level that's going on in China. And they're ahead. I mean, it seems to me that they're quite ahead. And so it does feel like one of the big questions is, if this is, it could be farther away than people think, it could be closer than people think. But if this is like a next industrial revolution where you start merging AI and physical robotics, and this is happening not here. It's happening, like, it's clearly not happening here. It's happening in China. And that's a big question. Like, people have to start thinking about that, waking up to that, and kind of figuring out because nobody wants to be in the country where the next industrial revolution doesn't happen. As the history shows, it's a really bad.
I mean, even looking at this graph, right, where Japan is represented in a pretty big portion of these different categories, right? In that, when I was going over that article of like Japanese robots replacing farm workers from a couple episodes ago, one of the points it made is that the Japanese robotics industry is falling behind relative to China and South Korea. And even though they do have that industry and it's been around for a long time, they aren't even necessarily keeping up in innovation.
Yeah.
So there seems like there's a fewer and fewer players that are capable of developing these things at a point that can align with.
I mean, it's what we read in Breakneck, where it's like this scale of so many competitors at the same time as because we had like Boston Dynamics, who was like one of the early leaders in robotics, and they had those videos that went viral 8 years ago, but they're not keeping pace. There's not enough pressure or competition or other people compared to what's going on with all these companies. So it's just I think it's going to become a really big story once robotics has a ChatGPT moment where it's like, oh, this robot can run autonomously in a factory for 3 weeks without doing anything, and it's like a big deal. And once that happens, it's like, wait a minute, this is a huge efficiency advantage. I don't know, we'll see.
It's been cleaning my clothes for 3 straight weeks.
Your clothes are threadbare.
I've been trying to stop it. It only knows how to clean.
Pushing you away.
It shoves me away with 2 of its arms. The other 2 keep cleaning. One final quick anecdote, which is just a funny part of this.
Yeah.
The cultural difference between us and China right now. When we went to China and we went into the mall to go look at their insane cars, you were waiting around to check out the new Xiaomi SU7.
Yeah.
I went downstairs. And because there was a humanoid robotics stall in the mall, and I got to, they showed off the robot dogs that were doing dances. They didn't have the humanoids there because they were like, oh, we're doing a big show today. This is in malls. In malls, they have multiple companies doing humanoid robotics and showing them to people right there.
Dude, when the guy, Doug, I walked downstairs because Doug was there already.
I saw the end of it.
And then when the guy made the dog run at us from the other side of the room, I was like, oh my God. So maybe this is
different. No.
You see,
when you just see it moving at you fast, it's like, wow.
I don't want that. Maybe I don't want it.
Feels creepier. It feels creepier.
It does feel creepier. It's good.
I want to be dominated by humanoid looking things. Yeah. Okay.
I want to be killed by a human robot.
I've always said that. All right. How do we transition this to New Zealand housing? China.
Geographically.
Okay. It would take the humanoid robot, I believe, if I do the calculations here, 31 minutes to run from China to New Zealand.
Yep, I think that's accurate, Doug.
And what would they find housing-wise in New Zealand when they got there?
And they would find a wealth of townhomes. The Chinese robots would have plenty of townhomes to move into.
That's awesome.
The Chinese robots are going to need a place to live.
They're going to need a place to live when they're in New
What
Zealand.
country has some space?
Yeah. And they can move to Auckland.
Okay. We've been to Auckland.
So I think, me and Atrioc have been to Auckland together. We did a little New Zealand tour.
We gambled. Do you remember that?
We did gamble. I went up $1,000 New Zealand
We
dollars.
went in the middle of the day it's a sad thing to do. Went to a casino in the middle of the day. It was basically empty.
Dude, we played blackjack with a viewer.
Yeah, we sat down and gambled, and then the only other person in the casino was like, "Are you Aiden?"
Yeah, it was crazy.
I love the yacht. It was crazy, and then we all won, and we were like hugging each other like it was. Anyway, sorry,
it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. I think as someone who loosely follows New Zealand, a lot of the economic news you hear about the country right now is pretty negative, like rising cost of real estate, unaffordable rents, brain drain of their young, educated population to either Australian universities or the Australian workforce, an aging population of older Australians moving there and buying property, and there not really being a lot of opportunity for working class New Zealanders right now, as their real estate market has shot up over the course of the last few decades and priced a lot of people out. But this was a good story that kind of told a little news in the opposite direction.
Okay.
So in 2000, I think it was 2016. It might have been a bit earlier than that. New Zealand, or Auckland specifically, New Zealand's biggest city, changed their zoning laws. So they rezoned 75% of the land. And this was to allow more dense housing to be built. They had a lot of it zoned for single family homes. And if you look at the reform prior to the reform, 96% of the land was zoned for low density housing. And after the reform, 45% of it went to medium low, 23% went to medium, 7% went to high. The basic idea that we need to build more buildings up, and we are willing to relinquish the idea of large houses in exchange for smaller properties because of the demand of people who need to live here. And there is a limited amount of land in Auckland to even develop in the first place. And what was pretty cool is the results have kind of come in after a decade of this policy being around. The housing stock, there are now about 620,000 620,000 total units of housing, 100,000 more than over a decade ago before the reforms. And median house prices have fallen about a quarter in that same time, more than the overall drop for the nation in the same time period. And rental prices since 2016 rose 26% more in the rest of the North Island of the country than in Auckland itself. Basically, they just built a ton of townhouses, turning lots that would normally be one house into like 4 or 5 units of housing. And it's funny because if you look at Auckland on this chart in the same article, it's not a particularly dense city still. Like they could be building a lot more like towers and apartment buildings and build further up. This is not a particularly even aggressive policy, but this change has moved the needle in some direction. And I'm sure that there are young New Zealanders listening to this right now that are saying, I'm still economically fucked. Things are still expensive. New Zealand is not free of problems. And this is also off of the back of a giant increase in property costs over the past few decades that still needs to be like rectified and like reckoned with. But it is cool to see the impact of how a policy change on building did have a tangible effect on mitigating the cost of housing in the area. And that's pretty much it.
No, it's awesome. I mean, listen, Auckland is not going to solve the economy of Australia. No individual city is going to solve youth unemployment, everything for the whole country. The fact that they built...
Even for New Zealand.
Like, it's like Austin. Austin did a similar thing, right? And they're not... Like, it's still hard to be trying to find a job when you're a young person in Austin. But the point is that their rent prices aren't rising at the same level as other cities in the state. Yeah. Like, it's just cool. It's just cool to see that it worked. It's shocking that building more housing would bring prices down.
Makes the prices go down.
And it really blows my mind. I think they tried capping the price on, but not building anymore.
I think if you are from New Zealand, especially if you're a young person right now, if you're in your 20s, early 30s, would love to hear about what your economic experience is in the country. If this change is really that noticeable by you, because ultimately rent still rose in Auckland. It's not like rent went down overall since 10 years ago. So I'm curious if this like seeming win or this very relative win feels like a win in your actual life. But it was interesting to read about at the very least.
That's cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm glad it's, I mean, this is just a lesson that I hope that all the world leaders in our audience take. Yeah. It's like, this is one of the easiest wins, is that rezoning has been like successful in almost every city it's been tried. It's like, it's one of the, most things in politics are trade-offs. I mean, this one has a trade-off in that housing prices for boomers might go down, but like this is.
Yeah, it's harder to get a single family home. Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, like I'll give a counter, like a friend, I guess I don't know if he'd want to share it, but like a friend of mine who lives in Texas of ours bought a home and the value has gone down by like 50K over the last couple of years. And that's got to feel fucking horrible. And that's because Austin has built so much house that it is a buyer's market and you cannot, your housing value does not just like go up in perpetuity anymore. That's not how it works. And rents are down. It's great, better than ever to be a renter in Austin. It's more affordable to pay rent and live in a place in Austin than it has been in a long time. And also owning a home is less valuable. It sucks
because it feels like the niche.
I like the trade-off, and that friend said, I like that this is happening. Yeah. It just sucks to see my investment get fucked.
Exactly. I think that's the niche pool of people that I have some sympathy for, that I think unfortunately that is the trade-off that we need to make, is the people who have like managed to save enough money to all in it on a house that's pretty expensive
are getting screwed.
And then they don't have a lot of savings or assets in like anything else because they saved everything to just get over the hump of being able to afford a house now somehow. Like this happens with friends who are like relatively successful in LA and they save for years to finally get a house here.
They have 2 incomes and they put it all in. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all they got. And it dips for them. I think that is but there's no other way. Like there has to be, something has to give eventually in order for the problem to be solved.
Yeah, 100%.
God, I hope we have mass surveillance on all those New Zealand homeowners.
Thank God, Doug, because there's a new flock camera on every corner of Auckland. I made that up.
Wait, is this about, there's flock in Auckland?
I have no idea.
Oh, Flockland?
Flockland. They're calling it Flockland.
Wait, is this flock camera story?
Flock camera.
What's new about flock cameras? We talked about it last week. We talked about flock cameras.
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So, little flock camera update.
Okay.
This is becoming an increasingly contentious issue, and we talked about how a couple weeks ago, various American cities are starting to say no to the flock cameras that their police departments and HOAs and schools and all these communities are installing. People are starting to really get some pushback.
Yeah, wait, I saw a story of a guy who took down a flock camera. Is this part of your thing? In Ohio? Okay, he took down a flock camera in Ohio, and then a grand jury refused to indict him.
Wow.
Like, he was caught doing it, and they just didn't indict him. It's a sign of the times. Like, I mean, that's a wild thing because they had 100% evidence that he.
I don't think they did have evidence because the flock camera couldn't track him after.
once he took it down, there was no more video. Anyway, I'm sorry to cut you
That's
off.
the trick about crime now. Okay, so this is a minor story update, and I'm going to give you some different perspectives that I thought were interesting. Flock, this is about 10 days ago now, announced some changes in the response to this enormous increasing backlash. And they basically said, we're going to change our privacy and accountability and security. There's a blog post about it you can check out. Here are some of the takeaways. Instead of storing license plate data for 30 days, they're only going to store it for 7. So we're voluntarily kind of clamping this down with the asterisk that it can be extended via evidence mode, which is an exceptional case where police are like, we need this data for longer periods of time for this case. We're going to filter the shared data. So if you're sharing your data with another city or department, which has been one of the big criticisms of this city just ends up sharing all their information with the federal government. That isn't on by default. You have to pick specific categories that can be shared. So a more ability to filter. They're going to audit automatically for abuse of their systems. There's a Washington Post report that dozens of cops have now been arrested because they've been personally abusing the Flock systems. There was a cop who used Flock to, I believe, over 700 times track where his ex-wife was.
Jesus Christ.
So now if abuse is detected by Flock, they will automatically lock out those individuals from the police force from using Flock. You now have to have a case code to search. And in the end, they kind of hype themselves up and were like, look, in July, we detected over 1,000 missing people and over 20,000 stolen cars. So it is their attempt to kind of do PR. Couple of interesting responses. ACLU has been very critical of Flock. They said the devil's in the details. These are conceptually good, but ultimately this feels like PR move. We wanted 48 hours of data retention. Going down to 7 is not enough. This evidence mode, in quote, is just like, they'll just be able to store data forever if they want. The search filtering thing, Flock keeps saying we're going to get better about preventing other groups from having the data. They've said that a lot, so maybe this time is different, but probably not. A lot of left-leaning commentators are obviously pretty not convinced by this. A quote from A.G. Dellinger in Gizmodo. As for the actual communities affected by Flock, you'd be pretty hard-pressed to believe that a person ready to tear down a Flock camera is going to have their mind changed by shortening the recommended data retention window from 30 days to 7.
Yeah, I think that's like the heart and soul of it, right? It's like, I don't think anyone has ever been convinced by one of these corporate blog posts. I've never seen one of these come out and it's been like, oh, you know what?
Oh,
Yeah.
Well,
good point.
Let me give you another perspective because I do think let's steel man it, make sure we look at both sides. So this was a recent community hearing. Let me make sure you can hear it. Harry, have volume up. Let me know if you're good. Okay, this is a public safety committee in San Diego a few days ago.
The Emperor is a fan of Flock, and we must continue utilizing Flock technologies so that we can follow and surveil the rebel scum as they move from playground to playground, from playground to pool, from pool to gymnasium, because we all know that the Flock cameras are not only following the license plate readers, they are following children. They are following children in parks and gymnasiums, and we need this. I need this so I can stalk my ex-girlfriend.
So
Vader is steel manned it, and I think he's got a good point.
Different cases. Look, even the conservative commentators in some of the articles that I saw they're concerned. I think there's not that many people who are just stoked. Oh my God, stoked for Flock.
I feel like if you're in a traditional
Like, don't
past
tread
20
on me,
years,
since.
if you're a Tea Party guy who actually
Flock is insane for you.
Flock, you'd hate it.
Yeah. If you're an anti-vaccine Facebook mom, Flock is like a fucking psychotic. There's kids on your playground with cameras.
Here's a quote from conservative Mike Fox. This pro-surveillance narrative relies on a fundamental misunderstanding of the role of government in a constitutional republic and ignores the reality that institutional power is inevitably abused. It's kind of wild that conservatives would be at all supportive of this when this seemingly goes so against what has traditionally been conservative.
It's like the balance of real tough on crime and then it's privacy. And that's the fucking balance. But yeah, it just doesn't seem like this is like a pretty popular movement now. This anti-flock thing is like nationwide. People that are in government that aren't listening are getting rolled over by their constituents or yelling at them in public forums. Like it's becoming a big thing. Like they just have to respond. The voters are seemingly against this overall. Like,
I was going to say, is this my weak echo chamber mind? But I feel like flock sits in a very similar category as data centers, where the pushback against it seems to be more bipartisan than you'd expect with a lot of issues right now.
Yeah. I mean, let's also be clear. There's definitely
from normal people.
There are definitely plenty of people, it's hard to quantify, who just like the idea of police can solve more crime. Right?
Yeah.
I think probably us three and most of our audience are not wild about what Flock is doing, but that exists. I talked to somebody who's in the Midwest kind of boomer era vibe a week or two ago, and they were like, yeah, the people against it just don't want crime to be taken care of, but like it's obviously good and we're trying to get installed in this other city, and like somebody who's like kind of involved with their local community. So these people exist who are like, that's fine with me, we want less crime. But certainly the tide is going against it. I mean, people fucking hate Flock as much as they hate the Lakers.
Fuck you, first of all. Well, actually, I don't even know. I don't even know if I want to defend the Lakers anymore. It's such a crazy time for me. Walk us through it, Aiden, because it's pissing me off.
I have an interesting question for you guys. What do you think the most valuable sports franchise in the world is?
The Lakers.
Sacramento Kings.
Ooh, they're on the list if you go down far enough.
On the list.
I think I have been just asking people this question for fun the last few weeks, actually. And I think it's interesting to hear what people's responses are. A lot of people will say a really well-known basketball team, like the Lakers. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will try to read the global context of sports, and they'll be like, well, it's probably a soccer team, and then it's probably Real Madrid or like Barcelona or something like that. And it is the Dallas Cowboys at an estimated $15.5 billion. At the top of the National Football League, a primarily American sport. And do you have a general idea as to why NFL teams are worth so much?
TV rights.
Yeah, it's the TV rights. And those TV rights are exploding over time. So recently, the NFL and the NBA both made gigantic new 11-year deals, way larger than their previous ones. I think the NBA tripled their previous.
Damn.
The NBA's is like
up, but that's crazy.
$77 billion.
So that's actually worth more than curing cancer.
Dude, wait a minute. Yeah. That's crazy.
It's the football. It's National Football League.
Moderna was $50 billion after doubling. That's crazy.
And the NFL is $110 billion for 11 years, and these deals just got negotiated, I think, a couple years ago now. And these broadcast rights are getting insanely large because it's the last thing really carrying network television.
Oh yeah.
At the same time as you have all these streaming platforms trying to cement their place in the market, right? There's only, like, for most people, the way they consume TV now is they expect to watch it at any given convenience and with minimal ads or the ability to fast forward through things. Right. And the traditional network TV experience doesn't really offer that anymore. But what's the one thing that we all still watch live, tolerate the ads through? It's sports. So these forces have kind of become juggernauts for the leagues. They're able to demand so much from these networks. And in turn, because of the rev share deal and the way that like league revenue works, this gets distributed to the rest of the league, the rest of the owners, the rest of the players, in things like the NFL and the NBA. So recently, the Lakers announced the sale of their team for the highest recorded sale of a sports franchise ever, which is $12.5 billion, which is also crazy because the Lakers just sold I think a little over a year ago for around $10 billion. The fact that somebody almost flipped it like a house is kind of funny. Because normally, once you get a seat at the table within a very limited pool of owners, you stick around for a while. The guy who was the owner of the Lakers prior to this, also the owner of the Dodgers, is apparently in a bit of financial trouble right now. And he is being investigated by the DOJ and the SEC and is allegedly was trying to sell the Lakers quickly in order to get a bunch of money in order to help with that case. And this reporting, if you want to hear the longer story, is by Pablo Torre, the same guy who did all of the investigative reporting on the Kawhi Leonard stuff. So I really encourage you to look more into it or follow his stuff in general if you're curious about it. But the reason why this deal is so crazy, it is led by not Jared Kushner. I was about to say
Bob Iger?
Josh Kushner?
Yeah.
This deal was led by Josh Kushner, Jared Kushner's younger brother, and Bob Iger, the former two-time CEO of Disney. But behind Josh Kushner is his private equity fund, Thrive. He has a main fund called Thrive Capital, and this is his offshoot fund called Thrive Eternal, which recently sent out a message to their investors to explain a new investment thesis that they at least have had for like the past year or so. And the idea is, in an age of uncertainty around investment, in the age of AI, when so many things can be changed and replaced with this technology that we don't fully understand yet, how do we evaluate the future? What's something that we expect to be untouched by AI no matter what, that seems like a promising industry that continuously pumps new money out of it because of all of these other circumstances that are colliding? It's sports. It's the ultimate, like, authentic human experience, right? And they made this acquisition of the NBA teams. And as we can see, like, within a year, they turned around a $2 billion profit on the sale of this team.
Right.
And that is crazy in itself. But it presents this idea, something that Pablo was talking about that I think is really interesting, is private equity has only been able to get chunks of teams for the past few years. Like starting in 2019 was when private equity was able to have any stake in any of these major sports teams.
The rules.
And the rules were changed in the NBA, I think, in 2019, and then the NFL in 2020. No, sorry, it was the MLB in 2019.
What would change that allowed private equity to not be able to do that before?
Restrictions from the leagues themselves.
Okay.
So they chose to have I think in the past you have this, like, it's so funny to talk about, owners in this way, but God damn it, teams used to be more affordable. They used to be cheaper.
No, it is. It's because they got more expensive.
Yeah, the guy in your town who was rich enough could buy it in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, sports teams were like a billionaire luxury toy. It's like a yacht or something. It was like and when they were at a $1 billion to $5 billion valuation or whatever, then it was like a thing they could afford. But now, because of what you said, they are getting so valuable and so expensive that a regular working class billionaire can no longer buy one on its own.
Could we rezone to make more of them?
To make more teams or more billionaires?
Both.
Both. I don't know. Look into that. Get ChatGPT on that. So now that they're so expensive, the only entities that have enough money to be throwing around billions to buy, it's like private equity and
Bob Iger.
Major banks. Well, Bob Iger's a small part of this deal. I mean, he's like the face of it, but it's like Kushner's money, Thrive Capital.
And there's also limitations on in these leagues of how much sovereign wealth funds were able to buy. Like Norway's sovereign wealth fund couldn't buy out a sports team a long time ago. But now these caps have been changed. So the leagues are making changes that more and more of these, like, institutional scale investors can get into sports and have a share. And there's already a concern from sports fans. So I think a lot of people are familiar with the idea that private equity has been ruining youth sports in the US as private equity firms like take ownership over like hockey stadiums and hockey clubs and like single areas. They're able to control so many facets of youth sports in a certain region that they can up the fees for everything. Even charging things like restricting your ability to record your kid's game with your phone and then charging for the streaming service, which I thought was ridiculous until I talked to my uncle, who my cousins all play hockey in Alberta. And he was saying he pays the $50 a month fee for all of the game feeds. And like he doesn't mind because it's like it's got a nice overlay and like
he wasn't
HUD and
going to
stuff
record
to
it.
it.
But if he did,
but he said technically he's not supposed to record the games.
Fucking crazy.
Which is crazy. And now sports fans, as they're beginning to interact with this, I think the MLB is like the first layer that was really getting hit by this, because in 2019 when they lifted the restriction, a private equity group got a huge chunk of the Red Sox. And a private equity group that's interested in maximizing the team for profit and not this traditional chase of like, I'm a rich owner who owns the sports team and I want to win.
Yeah.
That is very different than a private equity firm that's in the sport to make money. Those goals aren't necessarily aligned.
No, they're actually directly opposite if you really look into it, because in a sports league, they split the TV revenue 30 ways or whatever. And so theoretically, whether your team is doing good or bad, as long as the league is doing well, you get a big cut. So the maximized thing to do is to pay your salaries as low as you can, the salary floor, lose every game, but get all the money on. That's like the smartest thing to do. Billionaires don't usually do that because they want to win. They want to be like the champion guy holding up the trophy. So it's like, I mean,
the long-term fear is you have so many of these players. You have a market where realistically the only parties who can afford teams anymore are giant groups that are primarily interested in milking the funds out of something that is, for a lot of cities, like part of civic life. It's not, going to the baseball game or supporting your team. It's like a generational thing. And the idea that now a group who's trying to aggressively price tickets and monetize food in every way, at what point do you like push away the fans that give the team value in the first place?
Supporting Thrive Capital could be like a cool thing I do with my son.
Dude, it'd be so funny. Dude, you know what we should do? We should get Thrive Capital jerseys, but with like Doncic's name on the back and go to a game.
I just feel like that'd be a good father-son bonding moment to both like help shareholder equity in Thrive Capital. Like that's what I want him to grow up idolizing. He's great.
Human thing.
Yeah.
But the other thing I thought was really interesting about this is sports has always been a platform for like statements and politics, like, very simple images of like protest at the Olympics or something like that, right? There's this soft power in sports. It's why like a place like Qatar really wants the World Cup.
Right.
It puts your name on this grander stage. And it's so interesting, like even outside of this private equity stuff, you look at the way like Premier League teams are being bought up by like a royal from the UAE or Qatar, or the way Saudi Arabia has like increased their spending in sports in order to have this like global presence in it. It's all of this global money is like surging and spiking this industry that, is very human.
Yeah.
And is kind of the last like bastion of human authenticity. And it kind of makes you wonder when it's all going to break. Like how much longer can all this money keep getting put into it?
So people are saying that like if there ever is a down round in like what because these TV deals, every time they do them, like you said, it's so much bigger. And if they ever like are flat to down in the next negotiation, if no one's offering to pay you ever more billions for your TV rights, it like collapses all the growth models baked into these like sports team, like, because they don't run them right now for a profit. They run them kind of dead even, and they just sell the team for a higher valuation later because everything's growing. So it's weird.
Well, I think depending on the league you're in, you could be making a lot of money, right? Like if you have an NFL team, if you have an NFL team, because of the way the NFL is structured, you are probably making money. You probably have a profitable team, from my understanding. I think it's different in leagues where you don't have salary caps. I think it gets like really fucky in like the Premier League, where they do have rules now, but you have people come in, spend all this money. The top end teams are losing money, I think, like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United, Manchester City. These are all orgs that I think are technically losing money. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. but because they're pushing the salary caps for like players higher and higher. So I think there is an aspect of like egos in owners too. It's like you get a small piece in a very exclusive pie, and your team winning is kind of the only thing money can't buy.
Yeah, if you're that rich.
Yeah.
I will say there's one more angle of this story, which I think is interesting, and I certainly can't explain it. So I'm going to just toss it up there. And it's that Mark Walter, the owner that sold the Lakers, he's in financial trouble, as you mentioned, but that financial trouble and that investigation he's under seems to be like the tip of a very large iceberg that expands broader outside of sports. He made his money through this hedge fund, and it's like he has tied it in with insurance companies that he bought, and he is taking, this is what he's alleged of doing, is the illegal crime, taking insurance premiums and using them to gamble on things with the idea that he could pay it back later he's gambling on buying sports teams. It's like Sam Bankman-Fried taking customer deposits. And so, but if you look into it, it looks like this may be the case that a ton of private equity and hedge funds over the past few decades have been like slowly but surely buying insurance companies and looting them to fund their operations. And it seems to be, they also seem to know that if this all goes belly up, the insurance companies have to get bailed out because they are the insurance, the life insurance or whatever, health insurance for lots of citizens. So it's like, this could, like, he's the guy getting caught, but as he starts to unwind all of his sports empires to pay, I mean, it's crazy. Now, it may all end investigation because, like you said, Josh Kushner bought it, and Josh Kushner is into the Kushner family, who's just tied to Trump. And there's a history of like, hey, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Maybe he gets a pardon. Maybe that all goes away. It's weird they sold to him in just a few days.
Yeah, so apparently the deal was in less than 3 days.
Yeah, which is like insane to like open and close that. But also it seems like Josh Kushner and Bob Iger wanted to buy the new Las Vegas team that's going to start. But then the bidding price got so high, they were like, why don't we just buy an established team like the Lakers? They reached out and it worked out. But I just want to show you this clip real quick because as a Lakers fan, I'm so excited. You know, I don't like Kushner, but I'm so glad we have a true, authentic Lakers fan in Bob Iger to run the team.
For the listener, a little bit of background. Bob is a Clippers fan, and he was sitting courtside for nearly every home game during my 4 years in LA. And so you and I have spoken on a number of occasions, but I know you're very close friends with one of our recent guests, Chris Paul, who was just on the podcast. But there was a lot made of your relationship with him and your relationship with Adam Silver. It goes back a couple decades in sort of making the bubble possible, the NBA bubble happen this past season. Can you just speak a little bit about your relationship with Chris and your involvement in helping the bubble happen?
Sure. I am a Clippers fan, having moved from New York to Los Angeles back in 2000 and being a big NBA
You got to
fan.
respect that.
You
got to respect that a guy who's buying a team just for the money is like, I don't even like them. I fucking hate them.
It's not in my DNA to be a Lakers fan.
This is you going into the job interview for that Valorant position and you saying that you don't even like shooters.
I did.
Which you did do that.
I was in the last two for the role.
Wow.
And we had lunch together and I was like, I'll be honest with you, I don't even like shooters. And then they passed.
And then at least Bob Iger, got the gig.
True. Fucking Bob at it again.
I mean, to be fair, Atrioc did not flash $12 billion at Riot.
Yeah, I think they could have funded a couple more 2XKOs. Talk about that on the Patreon. Anyway, it's a clusterfuck, and I do think when Pablo Torre's reporting comes out and more comes out, it's going to be like a bigger thing than just the Lakers, even though this is already a pretty big deal of private equity in sports.
Yeah, I think it's just a really fascinating business. I'm so into the money behind it all right now.
You greedy Bob Iger pig.
Yeah, what can I say?
Just want the cash.
Do one more story. Let's hear about another fun subject, like data centers.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, we're close up to the end of the show, and we did a subject last week on data centers and the political backlash. I kind of wanted to just follow up because, like you mentioned with flock cameras, first of all, a lot of reporting is coming out on what people's polls and attitudes are towards data centers, but it is becoming one of the few truly bipartisan issues in America, and governors and state representatives who previously had been pro data center and advocated how, it's like we're bringing jobs to our state, are all abandoning ship just simply out of voter pressure. It is becoming like a 80-20 lineup. And what's interesting is, I talk a lot of data here from some good articles, is that there's a broader backlash against the tech industry as a whole and AI as a whole. But if you go to individual products, like even, for example, ChatGPT, people have a generally positive view. I mean, if you talk about Google, Amazon, or Microsoft, people are more than 50% positive. If you talk about like Apple and ChatGPT, it's closer to whatever. But the only ones that are even somewhat negative are Grok and Anthropic, and most of the people are the purple bar, which is they don't even know what it is. They haven't reached mainstream appeal. But like if you ask people about their individual use of the products, it's okay. But data centers have become a flashpoint for, I think, a broader anger with, I think part of it is like some of the marketing that AI firms have done to what it means to the average person. I think they've pushed the message that this will take your job, it's about to change everything. And that is causing people to be, I don't know, upset or afraid across party lines. And what's interesting is, so I have and by the way, this is sort of not unique to America, but most in America than anywhere else. So this graph I thought that was really interesting. It's about the rise of AI and the rise of AI in daily life. And it's a proxy for like data center support. The US is the most concerned, or more concerned than excited, of any country in the world, or at least of all the major ones polled. So it's like, this is happening more uniquely here. People are more feeling upset about the consequences or like angry about it. It's just strange. And if you look at it, the only remaining like even solid or like undecided data center group are MAGA Republicans. But like Republicans who are not MAGA, who are still like the Tucker Carlson Republicans, or like they are anti-data center. The left is anti-data center. The liberals are anti-data center. It's like this one group was like, Trump said he liked them a while back, and I haven't changed my thoughts. They're still locked in. So it's just they just haven't moved their polling. But it is like, if you look at this, like Harris voters, for example, it's a 13-point swing. It's just swinging drastically since January. In the last few months, it has become way more contentious. People asked why. So this is a pretty good study on people's responses on why. The largest concern seems to be environmental, which listen, based on the data I've seen, is like the least impactful part of a data center. That I've seen credible concerns over noise. Like if you're close enough to a data center, the powering of it is causing noise. Am I crazy? Am I wrong?
No, I looked at the fact that you still have Discord notifications pop up with the text on your laptop that you use for this job. But sorry, I'm sorry.
Actually,
go back to
I turned off streamer mode this morning because I had to see someone's username. It's not.
Just turn off notifications on your Windows. Who has notifications on Windows? We're doing a show. It's just like Aid's messages are just popping
damn
up.
Data centers, it wouldn't be pushing all these notifications on us.
Hey,
data centers or no data centers,
Yeah.
you need a fucking calendar. Can I say that? Can I interrupt this segment to
That's
say
not
it?
even related. That's not even related.
You should disable
And
the.
you're going to put that calendar in the cloud.
Where do you think the calendars are located?
In the
Aiden?
fucking data
This is a
centers.
protest. He's on the
In
80-20.
the fucking data centers. I am.
You and I are AI
balling the public.
cucks.
Yeah.
We use a
cuck.
calendar that's stored in some data center
Anyway,
somewhere.
I'm going to tell you, Kathy Hochul of New York,
That's a calendar.
Greg Abbott of Texas, they have both pivoted from being pro data center to anti because of political pressure, because of how much in America this is becoming an issue. And I it's a thorny question because I don't have the answer, but like, given that I think some level of progress in this has to be made, like, data centers have to be built in some way. It should be a way that's, not environmentally damaging. It's not close to someone, so there's noise damage, but we can't have the country be the one that's falling behind in everything because of this. I just think it's a weird situation where I think they've done such a horrible job of articulating what the benefit is. Like, if there are benefits, they are diffused and the negatives are localized. So what is I don't know. I'm just wondering how we can solve this issue as a country because it's coming down the pipe. Like, I feel like the same thing would happen with robotics or anything. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
I feel like the simple solution, because it kind of is telling that people's opinion on AI isn't necessarily aligned with this, like people's use of it, rather.
Yeah, their revealed
the
preferences of usage are different. Yeah.
So the fact that that is the case, and the fact that environmental concerns are the highest, right?
Yeah.
It seems like if you address people's concerns with like quality of life, noise pollution, environmental concerns, like if you can show tangible ways that these don't like mitigate the damage that's done around them, I feel like you could change a lot of people's minds. For like the layman who cares more about that than some like broader anti-AI principle.
Yeah, I guess.
And that's easier said than done, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but that feels like the simple answer.
I don't think it's irrational for people to feel this way if they don't see the benefit. But I'm wondering how they solve it, because it's down. It's like something I think should be solved. It should be a win-win situation where we are still building new things.
I think what I'm saying is that when we talked about this a while ago, where like, do the majority of people see the like benefit or impact that AI is having on their life? And we're making the argument that for a lot of young people in the country, especially who are maybe more tapped into the consequences, they don't really see those benefits yet. And the trade-offs don't seem worth it. But when you look at like a broad spectrum of people, when you think about and you look at their view of AI and their own use of it, they already see the positive applications. They like being able to ask ChatGPT a question, it spits it back, and they don't think about it much more than that.
I think that's different than data centers, though.
No, but that's what I mean. Because they have that positive effect of AI like in their life already. If you just address these base concerns of like, well, a data center near you means these consequences, then the problem feels like it's solved, even if that's like a difficult problem to solve. Do you know what I mean? Or do you feel like or are you saying the image of data centers is so tainted that even if the noise concerns, the environmental concerns, all these things are addressed, that people will no longer go back the other way?
I think there happens to be actually an interesting Bloomberg article called "Why Chinese Citizens Are Far More Optimistic About AI Than Americans." I actually don't think it's really environmental. Like, the AI hate was really rising before the environmental aspects became a real solid reason to hate it.
But people are just propping up the environment as like their answer.
The sense I get is that people, I mean, obviously there are real environmental concerns. I'm not downplaying that, but I think that is that fills the slot for a reason to be angry at this in general. And that is based on the reporting by Jasmine Sun that we talked about last week, where she went and talked to people in small towns and they're like, we like ChatGPT. Like, we're fine with it. We're not opposed to AI conceptually. We don't trust these tech companies. And in this Bloomberg article, it was like, the past decade's defining tech stories in the US were mostly damaging. Social media harming teenagers, the carbon cost of always on delivery, the collapse of trust after Edward Snowden. So this article makes the argument that China, I mean, it's crazy. People excited about AI in China is 84%. In the United States, it is 38%, more than double the population. And they're saying in China, the proliferation of technology has been carefully moderated by the government, and everybody has seen in their lifetimes this huge improvement in the quality of their lives. And then in America, it's like, we were at the top of the food chain relatively in terms of development 2-3 decades ago, and people largely feel anxious and worried and distrusting of tech broadly. So the sense I get, and I'm sure it's different per person, from multiple reports does seem to be that it is like America doesn't really trust these companies. The environmental concerns are the reason to make that into a concrete policy change.
I think to back that up, there's a study that showed people are more supportive of having a coal plant built next to them than a data center, which environmentally makes, there's just no fucking way. So it does feel like environment has become the catch-all for a general anger towards what these represent rather than...
Is it a clean coal plant?
Yes. And I mean, look, I can speak to this personally as I started to get angry comments about the AI content I was making, like at the beginning of last year. The criticism, and it's kind of, tapered off now as I've kind of changed what I've done. But initially it was just, we don't like AI. We don't like what it's doing. And it largely is about like generative AI. It feels like it's stealing people's work. It's going to replace jobs. But now the first argument when you see when people say, I just don't like that you're using AI, is the environmental concern. Like, it's switched to that. And again, it gives me this feeling of like, that's just the most prominent reason to hate it. But ultimately people are scared and feeling frustrated with the whole industry having this much power and growth.
And then
please, I'm sure people in the comments, like, this is obviously extremely nuanced. Let us know if you have other feelings on this. But
you know what I'd love to do is go to some towns and ask people. It'd be so interesting to like interview, because I think ultimately I feel like my perspective is so fueled by just people in our age range, like basically between the age of like early 20s and like mid 30s. And also that inherently is a group of people that's more online.
Sure.
And I'd love to hear people's like just more average people's explanations of how they feel about this topic. Yeah, I have a hard time imagining what would turn this around in the US. It feels like it rides on a larger wave that is difficult to challenge.
You know what it honestly, so as a certified AI hype bro,
yeah,
the thing that you can always fall back on, we talked about this yesterday, you can always fall back on medicine, right?
Yeah.
You can always fall back on like, well, it's going to cure cancer. And with that Moderna thing that I mentioned earlier, when I first saw the story, I was like, there was like some like tweets or something that were like, you see, AI is doing it. Thanks to AI, we're starting to cure cancer. We're going to be able to make customized drugs. And so that was one of the things I researched for this story. Is like, was AI a part of this? And like, no, they started this in 2017. It's just straight up not. It is machine learning, which is different. And Moderna has a partnership with ChatGPT, but the idea that AI is curing cancer right now is not true. Like, it's not. And so
they're leaning into it. Like clearly there's been a wake up call among AI companies that like, hey, the chickens are coming home to roost in a way of like what we've been saying and like the impunity with which we've been acting is going to cause us serious financial harm in the ability to get this. Like there's like 165 billion of data centers that have already been paid for that haven't opened. They've stopped construction because and so they're saying a lot of like, they're going back to the cancer thing because
they're going back. And it's just like, dude, it's like, you can't claim credit for this Moderna one. I guess if you are talking about machine learning broadly, you can, I guess, but this is well before ChatGPT.
But I think data centers specifically, like if you pull this graph, this is the last thing I want to say, is that even if AI were to have more, like a lot of people are using ChatGPT. It's actually almost too much for me. It's crazy, but it's becoming useful for a lot of people in a lot of ways. And that doesn't make you want to have a data center in your neighborhood because there's still a lot of, whether it's founded or not, and some of it is founded, that's what I want to show. Electricity prices are surging in the United States. So people are seeing power go up at the same time as they're seeing a massive, massive, massive multi-trillion-dollar build out in data centers. Now, these are not one-to-one. Some of this is happening before, but it lines up with the ChatGPT moment when the data center build out began. And there is more strain on the grid. And so people are not seeing the dirt. Like they're going to say, my cost goes up. Maybe there's noise pollution. Maybe possibly the town gets tax benefits, but they're being like denied that in legal proceedings. Like it's, what do I get from having it built here? Why not NIMBY it? Why not be a NIMBY, which is what most people are about most things in general when it comes to data centers. So they have to solve that problem if they want to build them. That's just, you can't expect someone to leap at the chance to help you out.
Co-opting the YIMBY movement for data centers. Yes, rezone for data centers. Build them up.
In my backyard.
And we are going to walk the walk here, which is why we're happy to announce that big yellow thing back there. That's a data center now.
It's powerful. And it fuels all of the AI we use at Lemonade Stand.
It fuels all of the scripts that have been telepathically through our cancer vaccines sent to each of us.
I will say, I did look it up because someone in my chat was like, would you ever live next to a data center? I looked it up. There's dozens of data centers in Los Angeles, and there's one within 6 miles of us now and where I live as well. So
wait, where do you live again?
I don't. You tell me my exact address. Shut up!
You prompted it.
Someone's gonna read your lips.
If you enjoyed this episode and you hate me, you're in luck. You could go to patreon.com/lemonade stand to watch the bonus episode this week because I won't be on it. If you are a person who just slogs through Lemonade Stand and says, I hate every time Aiden fucking speaks, subscribe to the Patreon now for the best episode ever.
Dude. You won't hear the Nordics mentioned once. You won't hear Estonia mentioned once.
It would be funny if we do the Nordic fun fact episode.
It's just you and
me.
It's
just you and me. And we're like, everything is wildly wrong.
So funny. Wait, that would make up
it's
Nordic
makeup's
fun
all
facts?
negative.
I heard in Sweden they don't even throw out their trash; they just throw it right on the ground.
You will see these two on the bonus episode this week, and me on next week's main episode. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Wait, real quick, just a reminder: the vaccine did not cure the cancer. I forget. Wait, did I emphasize that properly?
What?
Did the vaccine cure? Did I say the vaccine?
I've
cured?
already written my comment.
You said it didn't cure it. You said it didn't cure it, and you said it provided.
Actually,
you
provided
about 50%
with an asterisk.
You said it. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Wait. I actually forgot. I actually do want to throw this in at the end. There's an important correction I wanted to make about last week's episode. I actually thought somebody made a thread, and this is not. It's an important correction.
Do it.
This is good for YouTube retention.
I think in my explanation of the Sudan Civil War, I remarked that way back when the SAF's violence in the western part of the country was a historical reason for the violence that the RSF is causing now. I think it is important for me to say that was incorrect. There was an older group called the Janjaweed that preceded the RSF, became the RSF as it is now, that committed those atrocities back then. The SAF did support them. The important thing is, like, I think in the episode, we're kind of guessing as to the reason for, like, the retribution and the terrible violence that is unfolding now. And maybe it's because of, like, retaliation against this group that did something back then. That's not the case.
I don't think the point of that segment was for you to pick a group and say, this is the problem, this is the response.
That I agree with that. I just think it's an important correction to make.
Okay. If
And
we're
I
all getting
appreciate
dirty
it.
laundry out, I feel bad about the time that I said I was presenting my story to an old bald guy and a skinny bird. And I think you don't look skinny anymore. You've put on a lot of weight. And it's noticeable. I would not call you that.
Important to correct the story.
That
was important to correct the story. And we'll thank you.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you.
See you next week, everybody.
I want to correct when I said we're leaving the show.
Yeah, I want to make that correction.
We have more corrections to make. All right, bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye.